You've spent hours creating the perfect trading plan. Your rules are clear, your risk management is solid, your strategy is back-tested. You know exactly what a good setup looks like. And then, the perfect trade appears right in front of you. But you don't take it. Not because it doesn't meet your criteria, it does. Not because you don't see it, you do. You don't take it because somewhere in your mind, there's a voice asking, am I sure this follows my rules? What if I'm interpreting this wrong? What if this counts as a violation? This is the paradox that destroys good traders. They create rules to protect themselves, and then the fear of breaking those rules prevents them from trading at all. It's like being so afraid of making a mistake on a test that you can't write any answers. I've watched countless traders who have genuine skill, who understand the market, who've done the work, completely freeze up because they're terrified of violating their own rules. Not rules imposed by a prop firm or a boss, their own rules that they created for themselves. Here's what makes this so insidious. These traders aren't lazy. They're not undisciplined. In fact, they're often the most conscientious, rule-following traders you'll meet. But that conscientiousness has turned into something toxic. It's become rule paranoia. They second-guess every decision. They overanalyze every setup. They hesitate on perfect trades because they're not 100% certain it fits the exact letter of their trading law. And while they're hesitating, the trade moves without them. Let me tell you about Marcus. Profitable trader, solid strategy, great risk management. He created a detailed trading plan with specific entry criteria. 5 conditions had to be met for a valid trade. Seems smart, right? But Marcus started obsessing over those 5 conditions. Is that really a higher high or just a temporary spike? Does this count as confirmation or do I need to wait longer? Is the volume sufficient or just barely acceptable? Every trade became a legal analysis instead of an execution. He went from taking 15 to 20 trades a month in his demo account to taking 3 or 4 in his live account, not because opportunities disappeared, because he was paralyzed by fear of breaking his own rules. His equity curve flatlined despite having a working strategy. This is the hidden destroyer of trading careers that nobody talks about. Not overtrading, not revenge trading, not lack of discipline. The opposite, too much fear of not being disciplined enough. If you've ever hesitated on a perfect setup because you weren't absolutely certain it met every single criterion of your plan, if you've ever skipped a trade because you were afraid it might technically be a rule violation, if you've ever felt paralyzed by your own trading rules, this video is for you. Because what I'm about to show you is that the fear of violating rules is just as destructive as actually violating them, maybe more so. Because at least when you break rules, you're taking action and getting feedback. When you're paralyzed by fear, you're not trading at all. The best traders don't have perfect rule following. They have confident execution within reasonable guidelines. They trust their judgment. They understand that trading rules are frameworks, not legal contracts that require a lawyer to interpret. But most traders never learn this distinction. They create increasingly rigid rules, trying to eliminate all uncertainty, and in doing so, they eliminate their ability to trade effectively. Let me show you exactly how this happens and what to do about it. Rule fear doesn't start on day 1 of trading. It develops over time through a predictable psychological process. Understanding this process is crucial because you can't fix what you don't understand. Stage 1. The early mistakes. When you first start trading, you make mistakes. You take trades outside your plan. You hold losers too long. You exit winners too early. You overtrade. These mistakes cost you money and create emotional pain. This is normal. Every trader goes through this phase. The mistakes are part of the learning process, but how you respond to these mistakes determines whether you develop healthy discipline or toxic rule fear. Stage 2. Creating rigid rules as protection. After experiencing the pain of undisciplined trading, you decide to get serious. You create rules, specific, detailed rules about when to enter, when to exit, how much to risk, what markets to trade, what times to trade. Again, this is normal and healthy. Rules provide structure. They help you avoid emotional decisions. They create consistency. But here's where the problem starts to develop. You create more and more rules, trying to cover every possible scenario. Your trading plan grows from 2 pages to 10 pages to 20 pages. Every mistake you make gets a new rule to prevent it from happening again. Your brain starts associating rules with safety. Following rules equals avoiding pain. Breaking rules equals losing money. This association gets stronger with every losing trade you attribute to not following rules perfectly. Stage 3. The violation anxiety. Now, when you look at a trade setup, your brain doesn't just evaluate whether it's a good trade, it evaluates whether taking this trade might violate one of your many rules. And because there are so many rules, there's always room for doubt. Is this the right time of day according to my session rules? Is the spread acceptable according to my cost rules? Is this confirmation strong enough according to my entry rules? Does this position size exactly match my risk rules? The anxiety builds with each question. Your brain, trying to protect you from the pain of rule violation, makes you hesitate, and hesitation in trading is deadly. By the time you convince yourself the trade follows all the rules, it's too late. Stage 4. Analysis paralysis. You're now stuck in a loop. You see trades, but you're afraid to take them. You analyze them to death, checking and rechecking whether they meet every criterion. You convince yourself to take the trade, then second-guess at the last moment. Some traders get stuck here permanently. They have the knowledge, the strategy, the capability to trade profitably, but they're so afraid of making a mistake that they barely trade at all. They watch opportunities pass by while they're paralyzed by their own rule system. Stage 5. The confidence collapse. The final stage is when you start doubting not just individual trades, but your ability to make any trading decision. If you can't even tell whether a trade follows your rules, how can you trust yourself to trade at all? You start thinking, maybe I need more education. Maybe I need a more detailed plan. Maybe I need stricter rules. You add more complexity to a system that's already too complex. The problem gets worse, not better. Here's what's really happening psychologically. Your brain has associated uncertainty with danger. In trading, there's always uncertainty. Even perfect setups have uncertainty. But your rule-focused brain interprets any uncertainty as potential rule violation, which triggers anxiety. This anxiety activates your threat response. When you're in threat mode, your prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part of your brain, gets suppressed. Your amygdala, the fear center, takes over. This makes it almost impossible to execute trades with confidence. The cruel irony is that you created rules to improve your trading, but the fear of violating those rules is now preventing you from trading at all. The solution has become worse than the problem it was meant to solve. Professional traders avoid this trap by understanding something crucial. Rules are guidelines for judgment, not substitutes for judgment. They provide structure, but they don't eliminate the need for discretion and confidence in your ability to make decisions. Amateur traders try to create rules so detailed and specific that no judgment is required. They want a mechanical system where every decision is automatic. But trading doesn't work that way. There's always judgment involved. And when you're afraid of your own judgment, you can't trade. Let me show you the specific ways that fear of violating rules destroys your trading results, because understanding the cost is what motivates change. Cost 1. Missed opportunities. This is the most obvious, but also the most damaging. Every time you hesitate on a good trade because you're not absolutely certain it meets all your criteria, you miss an opportunity. One missed trade per week doesn't sound like much, but over a year, that's 50+ missed opportunities. If your strategy has an edge, each missed trade is lost expected value. Compound that over years and you've missed thousands of trades that would have been profitable on average. The tragedy is that many of these missed trades were actually perfect setups. They did meet your criteria, but your fear-driven brain convinced you they were questionable. So you watched them play out exactly as your strategy predicted, but without you in the position. Cost 2. Late entries and poor execution. Sometimes fear of rule violation doesn't stop you from taking a trade entirely. It just makes you hesitate long enough that your entry is no longer optimal. You see the setup forming. You start analyzing whether it meets all your criteria. By the time you convince yourself it does, the price has already moved. Now you're chasing. You enter at a worse price, your risk-reward is compromised, and you're more likely to get stopped out. Even when these trades win, they win less than they should have. Your hesitation literally costs you pips or points on every trade. Over hundreds of trades, this adds up to significant lost profit. Cost 3. Reduced sample size kills your edge. Every trading strategy needs a sufficient sample size to show its edge. If your strategy has a 60% win rate, you need to take enough trades for that 60% to manifest. But if fear of rule violation causes you to take only a fraction of the valid setups, you're not giving your edge room to work. You might take 10 trades in a month when you should have taken 30. Now variance dominates your results instead of your edge. You can't evaluate whether your strategy works if you're only trading 20% of the setups, and this creates a vicious cycle. Your results are mediocre because of small sample size, so you think your strategy needs more refinement, so you add more rules, which causes more hesitation, which further reduces your sample size. Cost 4. Psychological damage to confidence. Every time you see a trade setup and don't take it because of fear, you're reinforcing to yourself that you can't be trusted. You're literally training your brain to doubt your judgment. Then, when the trade works without you, it confirms that you were wrong to hesitate. But instead of learning to trust yourself more, you often add another rule to make the criteria clearer. This makes the problem worse. Over time, this erodes your confidence completely. You start feeling incompetent despite having the knowledge and skills to trade well. This psychological damage can take months or years to repair. Cost 5. The opportunity cost of time. While you're sitting in front of your screens, overanalyzing setups and hesitating because of rule fear, you're using time that could be spent actually improving your trading or living your life. Traders with rule fear often spend more time at their desk than traders who execute confidently, but they trade less and make less money. They're working harder for worse results. This leads to burnout, frustration, and eventually many quit trading entirely. The saddest part is that these traders often have more knowledge than traders who are profitable. They've studied more, created more detailed plans, spent more time analyzing, but knowledge without execution is worthless in trading. Cost 6. The comparison trap. You see other traders executing with confidence, taking trades, showing results. You wonder why you can't do the same. You have the knowledge, you have the strategy, but you're paralyzed while others are profiting. This creates frustration and self-doubt. You start thinking maybe something's wrong with you, maybe you're not cut out for trading. But the truth is simpler. You've trained yourself to fear your own rules, and that fear is the only thing holding you back. Here's what you need to understand. The goal of trading rules isn't to eliminate all mistakes. Mistakes are inevitable. The goal is to create a framework that produces positive expectancy over many trades. But you can't achieve positive expectancy if fear prevents you from taking the trades. Playing it safe by avoiding anything that might be a rule violation isn't actually safe. It's the riskiest thing you can do because it guarantees you won't succeed. You can't trade profitably by not trading. Now let's talk about practical solutions. How do you maintain healthy discipline without falling into the trap of rule fear? How do you follow your plan without becoming paralyzed by it? Solution 1. Simplify your rules dramatically. This is the most important step. If your trading plan is more than 3 pages long, it's too complex. If you have more than 5 to 7 key rules, you have too many. Sit down with your current trading plan and ask yourself, which of these rules actually matter for my edge? Which rules are trying to prevent every possible mistake? Cut ruthlessly. Reduce your plan to the essential elements only. Your rules should be simple enough that you can evaluate a setup in 30 seconds or less. If you need 5 minutes to check whether a trade qualifies, your system is too complex and you'll always hesitate. Solution 2. Shift from binary rules to principles. Instead of trying to define exact conditions that must be met, define the spirit of what you're looking for. Instead of price must close above the 20-period moving average, think trend should be bullish. This gives you permission to use judgment. You're looking for alignment with your principles, not perfect technical compliance with rigid criteria. This reduces the anxiety that comes from trying to interpret whether something technically counts. Professional traders operate on principles, not rules. They know what they're looking for and they recognize it when they see it. They don't need to check a list. You can develop this same intuitive recognition if you stop trying to eliminate all judgment from your process. Solution 3. Use a pre-trade checklist, not a permission system. A checklist is different from a rule system. A checklist reminds you to consider important factors. A rule system demands perfect compliance or no trade. Your checklist might include: is the trend clear? Is there confirmation? Is my risk-reward acceptable? Am I trading during my preferred session? These are prompts for judgment, not gates that must be perfectly satisfied. If 4 out of 5 items are clearly yes and 1 is mostly yes, take the trade. You don't need perfect alignment. You need reasonable confidence that the trade fits your strategy. This mindset shift from perfection to reasonableness is liberating. Solution 4. Set a minimum trade frequency. This might seem counterintuitive, but it works. If you're supposed to be taking 10 to 15 trades per month based on your strategy, set a minimum of 8 trades. This forces you to take trades even when you're slightly uncertain. It prevents the analysis paralysis, where you find reasons to disqualify every setup. You have to hit your minimum, so you have to overcome the fear and execute. Over time, you'll realize that the trades you were slightly uncertain about performed just as well as the ones you were completely certain about. This builds confidence in your judgment and reduces rule fear. Solution 5. The 5-second rule. When you identify a potential trade setup, give yourself 5 seconds to decide. Check the key factors, make the call, execute, or move on. No extended analysis, no second guessing. 5 seconds. This eliminates the opportunity for fear to build. Fear needs time to grow. When you make decisions quickly based on pattern recognition rather than extended analysis, you bypass the anxiety that causes hesitation. Solution 6. Track hesitation as a metric. Keep a log of trades you identified but didn't take because of uncertainty. Review them later to see if they would have worked. You'll often find that your hesitation costs you profitable trades. Seeing this data makes it clear that rule fear is hurting you, not helping you. It provides motivation to trust your judgment more. You can also review the trades you were uncertain about but did take to see that they perform fine. Solution 7. Reframe rule violations. Stop thinking of anything outside perfect compliance as a violation. Think of it as using discretion. You're not breaking rules, you're applying judgment within a framework. This mental reframe reduces the anxiety. You're not doing something wrong by taking a trade that's 90% aligned with your plan. You're using the judgment that trading requires. Give yourself permission to be human, to use discretion, to trust yourself. Solution 8. Accept that some uncertainty is healthy. The traders who struggle most with rule fear are often trying to eliminate all uncertainty before taking a trade. But uncertainty is fundamental to trading. Every trade has uncertainty. Waiting for perfect certainty means never trading. You need to develop comfort with reasonable uncertainty. If a trade is 70 to 80% aligned with your strategy, that's enough. Take it. You don't need 95% certainty. The key principle underlying all these solutions is this: rules should serve you, not control you. They're tools to support good decision-making, not chains that prevent all decision-making. When rules become chains, you need to break free. Let me tell you what happened with Marcus, the trader I mentioned at the beginning. After months of analysis paralysis, barely taking any trades, he finally recognized the problem. It wasn't his strategy. It was his relationship with his rules. He simplified his trading plan from 15 pages to 2. He shifted from rigid rules to core principles. He gave himself permission to use judgment, and most importantly, he accepted that he would sometimes take trades that weren't perfect according to some technical interpretation of his criteria. The first week, taking trades with less than absolute certainty felt terrifying. His fear-trained brain screamed at him that he was being reckless, but he pushed through. He took the trades that reasonably fit his strategy, even when he wasn't 100% sure. And you know what happened? His results improved immediately, not because his strategy changed, but because he was actually executing it. He went from 3 trades per month to 15. His edge finally had room to work. Within 2 months, his account was growing consistently. The transformation wasn't in his technical skills or his market knowledge. It was purely psychological. He stopped letting fear of rule violation prevent him from trading, and that made all the difference. Here's what I want you to understand. If you're a good trader being held back by rule fear, you're so close to success. You have the knowledge, you have the skills, you probably have a strategy that works. The only thing missing is the confidence to execute. That confidence doesn't come from creating more rules or more detailed criteria. It comes from simplifying your system, trusting your judgment, and accepting that trading requires making decisions under uncertainty. Perfect compliance with perfect rules is a fantasy. Confident execution within a reasonable framework is reality. Think about every other skilled profession. Doctors don't follow exact flowcharts for every patient. They use medical principles and judgment. Lawyers don't have perfect rules for every case. They interpret and apply legal principles. Chess players don't follow rigid rules for every position. They use strategic principles and pattern recognition. Trading is the same. You need principles and judgment, not rules and perfect compliance. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you'll break free from rule paralysis. So here's my challenge to you. Look at your trading plan this week. How complex is it? How many rules are you trying to follow? How often do you hesitate because you're not sure if something technically qualifies? Simplify it. Cut it down to the essentials. Shift from rules to principles. Give yourself permission to use judgment. Set a minimum trade frequency to force execution and track how this affects your results. I guarantee you'll find that taking more trades with reasonable confidence produces better results than taking fewer trades with perfect rule compliance. Because in trading, execution beats perfection every single time. If this resonated with you, if you recognized yourself in the pattern of rule fear and hesitation, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. I create content that addresses the real psychological barriers in trading, the ones that actually hold people back. Drop a comment and tell me about your experience with rule fear. Do you hesitate on good trades? Have you created increasingly complex rules trying to eliminate uncertainty? How has this affected your trading? Let's have an honest conversation. And if you know another trader who's struggling with analysis paralysis or fear of violating their own rules, share this video with them. Sometimes just knowing that this is a common problem and not a personal failing is enough to start the process of change. Thanks for watching. Remember, your trading rules should empower you to make good decisions, not paralyze you from making any decisions. Simplify your system, trust your judgment, and give yourself permission to be human. The market rewards confident execution, not perfect compliance with perfect rules. Be the trader who executes with reasonable confidence, not the trader who never trades because they're afraid of being imperfect. You have what it takes to succeed. The knowledge is there, the skills are there. All that's missing is the confidence to trust yourself and execute. Stop letting fear of your own rules prevent you from trading the strategy you worked so hard to develop. I'll see you in the next one. Keep it simple, trust your judgment, and remember that good enough executed consistently beats perfect that never happens. Trade with confidence.